How resilient is Mexico's economy? Between falling exports, annual inflation and environmental issues, can Mexico handle everything it's being thrown? Joining me on the line to discuss is Jonas Rama. So Jonas, Mexico's annual inflation rate hit a record low in early October, with little impact from a sharply weaker peso. Is a weaker peso still seen as a stimulant to boost the economy and still beneficial for Mexico?
Mexico's peso has dropped 20% the past year, reaching a record low of 17.34 per dollar in September. This is the lowest level since 1993, so we've seen something new here for the Mexican economy. Inflation has been under control, and it's important to say that inflation control has been a distinguishing feature of Mexico's economy. Banco de Mexico's governor, Agustin Carstens, and his board are known to be one of the most economically orthodox central bankers in Latin America. What is interesting to see is that despite the fact that the annual inflation rate has fallen below the target of 3% in early July this year, inflation rate of 2.46%, which by mid-October, right now, 2015, is the lowest since 1968, and a 3% borrowing cost since June 2014, which is also a record low, but it's a bid to boost economic growth. We see that the second largest Latin American economy to continue to show economic weakness. So 2015 growth forecast has been around 2.3%, which represent a cut of more than a percentage point from the early of the year or from as late as December 2014. So what we see is a general lack of price pressures, inflation dropping to historical lows, even though we see that falling from service costs due to reforms and the negative impacts on lower gasoline price increase too. In October, government phased out the seasonal electricity discount, so all this, in fact, has an impact on inflation and the low level of inflation. So except on price for durable goods, I don't see the weaker peso has a significant pass-through effect on inflation. So overall, the Mexican equity should draw support from anchored inflation and spillovers from as the U.S. economy grows and recovers. So I think the Bank of Mexico, Banco de Mexico, should have the expectations of a weaker peso would have a positive impact on the economy. Mexico economy should experience a modest acceleration in 2015. It may certainly be the better performing Latin American economy next year. And I think the Banco de Mexico could afford to be somewhat patient with future interest hikes, given the current inflation rate, low volatility of Mexican peso.
Mexico's trade deficit continues to rise on falling dollar exports. Societe Generale has estimated exports likely contracted minus 5.4% year-on-year, while imports likely fell by minus 2.5% year-on-year. Mexico is expected to follow the Fed in raising rates. But do you think Mexico is ready for a rate hike in the near future?
The falling oil prices have hit both the external account and Mexico public finance. The trade deficit is estimated on a latest forecast by the UN Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean to be around $14.5 billion, which is $12 billion from 2014's deficit. Manufacturing domestic demand will soon pick up speed, as I said, gaining momentum from the U.S. growth. Again, given low inflation, there's certainly no need for a hike until December, in tandem with the Fed in the United States. Some analysts do expect a maximum of a 25 basis point hike for the first trimester of 2016, and it is certainly a reasonable timetable. However, I think that unless there is economic movement, the economy start growing again with some inflationary pressure, I think on short term it will be very difficult to have a hike on interest. So we might even have to wait past the first trimester of 2016.
Hurricane Patricia hit Mexico's coast on Friday. This was estimated to cause $3 billion in damages. How vulnerable is Mexico's economy? And does Mexico have resilience to such events?
Well, fortunately, the worst has not occurred, as the news reports. I think as of today, the Mexican economy does have necessary conditions and resilience to face natural disasters as such. The economy might not performing as we would expect, but this is mainly due to combinations of external factors and certain internal reforms needed. But I think in time of emergency and urgency, the economy does have conditions to respond to this type of challenges. In particular, natural disasters as such, we'll certainly see an increase in the level of expenditure from part of the government as it would attempt to fix the damage caused. And we'll certainly see some inflationary pressure on the civil construction sector, but I think the country could do very well in unforeseen natural disasters as such. Fortunately, that's not the case, but I think the overall the fundamentals of the Mexican economy are good, and they would be in conditions to face challenges of this nature.
Well, Jonas, thank you for speaking with us today. That is all for today, but for all the latest Dukascopy updates and interviews, stay tuned throughout the week. Goodbye for now.